So you might have noticed I'm not pitch side for this particular video. They just started mowing the pitches just after full time at the Academy Stadium, so there was a bit too much background noise to make a video there, and then the stadium itself is on a dual carriageway, so I couldn't do it outside the stadium. Anyway, you're probably not interested in any of that. But it finished at the Academy Stadium. Manchester City 1, Arsenal 1, with a stoppage time equaliser from Tobin Heath after Manchester City had gone ahead through Bunny Shaw about midway through the second half. Slightly controversial goal because in the build-up the ball hit the referee, and she elected not to stop the game with a drop ball, which is usually what happens in that scenario. I understand there's been, some kind of justification for this in terms of the actual wording of the rule says if you don't think it's broken up the rhythm of an attack or started a new attack, that you can play on. I have to say I think there was at least some reasonable doubt that Beth Mead might have got to the ball or at least been able to compete for the ball had it continued on its trajectory. So I really think the referee should have pulled the game back, but she didn't, and Arsenal went 1-0 down as a result. And to be honest, it would have been really harsh on Arsenal, I think, to lose this game. It's a weird one for me because I feel like Arsenal were the better team throughout this game, but they didn't really create enough chances for me to firmly justify that. Like if you look at the XG, I haven't seen what the XG is yet, but I imagine it was be about equal, to be honest, between the two teams. But it's really difficult to describe. I felt structurally and tactically, sometimes you watch these big games between quite evenly matched teams and you just get a sense of which one's in control. And I felt like Arsenal were in control for a lot of this. Like I was very, very nervous before the game, but actually during the game, I didn't feel very nervous. And that's really because I felt like Arsenal had, had control of this, as much control as you can have when you go away to a team like Manchester City. I'm not saying for 1 minute that Arsenal dominated every single second of this game. That was never going to happen. And obviously a team like City will always come into the game, will always have good spells. Even when we beat them 5-0 in September, I think they finished that game with an XG of 1.8 or something like that. Like they had good spells in that game as well. You cannot go to a place like Man City and control the whole game. But I felt on balance, Arsenal had this a little bit more under control than City. However, they didn't create a lot of chances in the final third. So it's difficult for me to say that Arsenal really, really deserved to win this. I certainly felt they didn't deserve to lose it, and it would have felt especially harsh in the circumstances given the controversy around the goal. There's a few things that were quite interesting about this. I spoke to Jonas afterwards, and he'd said on Wednesday night after the defeat to Manchester United that it was a step in the right direction. Which I think it was fair to say, given that the game before that was Birmingham, which was absolutely dreadful, and Arsenal couldn't really fail to take a step in the right direction from there. I felt this was another step in the right direction. I didn't feel like Arsenal looked like they lacked confidence or anything like that. I felt like they had a game plan. Their positioning from City's goal kicks, for example, was very aggressive. I think they had a really clear plan to press City high up. And actually City didn't press Arsenal in quite the same way when they played out from their goal kicks, which I guess is why I had the impression that Arsenal kind of controlled this game. I felt like of the two teams, Arsenal looked a bit more comfortable in their own third, maybe, even if they didn't dominate in the final third. A few things going on in this game that I guess I wanted to address because I've seen a lot of conversation. I've seen a lot of conversation about the form of Nikita Parris, for example. And I have to say, I feel a lot of the criticism is a little bit overwrought. Of Parris, and I think the reason, look, if a player is not at their absolute optimum form, it is almost always a wider tactical thing, and that doesn't mean that the player has no responsibility whatsoever, but it's very, very rare, I think, that a player just drops out of form or doesn't perform to their absolute ceiling for no reason. And I think with Parris, kind of what's gone on really is in the last few weeks, Arsenal have lost Steph Catley, which means they haven't been able to play Katie McCabe on the wing. So she's been playing at left back. They've not had Caitlin Ford. They've now not got Mana Iwabuchi either. And they've not had Tobin Heath. So Arsenal have played Mead and Parris on the wings because they've kind of had to. And I think the thing is, I don't think you really want Mead and Parris in the team at the same time because they're quite similar players. I mean, first of all, neither is totally comfortable on the left. which is an issue for both players, but it's also an issue for Arsenal because that's the side where Arsenal really, really try to create things. And if you look back on this game, look at Arsenal's two best chances. Vivian Miedema on the left-sided overload, chops inside Lucy Bronze, has a shot, saved. Other big chance, Beth Mead on the left-sided overload, chops inside Lucy Bronze, shoots, saved. Where did the goal come from? Tobin Heath, left-hand side. Everything happens on that left-hand side. And really what Arsenal need on that left-hand side is one of the small space players. So either Mana Iwabuchi or Tobin Heath, or even Katie McCabe with Steph Catley behind her. And then on the right-hand side, I think you need one of Mead or Parris, who are slightly bigger space players. Different, obviously. Nikita Parris likes to run in behind. And like I said, Arsenal don't really create very much on that side. That's not really what the right side does in this team, which I think has an impact on Nikita. But when Beth plays there, she's much more of a presser. She goes and closes down that left back and she tries to force high turnovers. So you've got two quite different players in Mead and Parris, but they do something quite specific on the right-hand side. And I just think the combination of them together perhaps doesn't quite work on each flank. And then Tobin Heath comes on, gets the equaliser in stoppage time. And I think Tobin, fingers crossed if she stays fit, will be a huge player in the second half of the season, because the way Arsenal play, switching the ball over onto that left-hand side, they really need someone who can kind of trap the ball from those long diagonals and then, have that interplay with Katie McCabe or Steph Catley at left back, draw players in, dribble round players. And obviously with the goal, that's not what she did with the goal. With the goal, it's because she's 33-year-old Tobin Heath. She's very, very experienced and she's not fazed in that moment at all. And she just calmly puts the ball in the bottom corner, which is what you expect from an experienced world-class player. But I think tactically, a player like Tobin, even Mana, really, really important for that left-hand side. And I have to say, I thought that when Arsenal took Jordan Nobbs off in this game, I did feel like Arsenal lost something a little bit. They lost that left-sided overload. I thought Jordan had a really, really good game, both as the player to instigate the press, but she was filling spaces really nicely, combining with players. And I feel Arsenal lost that a little bit when she went off. But the ball scrambles in the box in the last minute and Tobin Heath's there to poke it home. And I think a draw was the least that Arsenal deserved from this game.